Are longer manuscripts harder to get published? My name is Gina. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing better. I know that this is extremely disappointing for those of you who really like to read long books and who really like to write long books. But yeah, if you are a debut author, you are going to be punished, so to speak, if you have a much longer manuscript. When we are talking about much longer, we are talking about 100,000 words is generally considered sort of the benchmark in which most genres are going to expect their debut authors to keep their first manuscripts to. So this is a very generalized rule. This is not a hard and fast rule. There are going to be exceptions to this all over the place. But this is because you as a debut author are considered financially risky. So because you have not proven that you are going to sell anything, every single dollar that traditional publishing spends on you is a risk. They are not sure if they are going to recoup that cost, if they are going to get their money back. And so every single penny they spend on you is a risk. Let's look at some of the reasons why 100,000 words is sort of like this benchmark and how much more difficult and much more expensive it can be if we go up over that mark. Really quickly, let's take a look at just editing costs. Now, this is for freelance editing, and if you are doing self-publishing, you are going to be the one who is on the hook for all of these editing costs. But if you're going to a traditional publisher, they're going to be paying somebody a salary. And while this does not line up exactly with how much that cost is, you have to remember that this is all, I base my prices on the amount of time that it takes me to do this work. And this is all based on like per word. So if somebody is doing this and they are salaried or they are paid hourly at a big publisher, the costs go up the more words that we have. So for a developmental edit, this is my price per word. For a line edit, which is a lot more taxing, I have to do a lot more like fact checking and research and things like that. That's my price for a line edit. At 50,000 words, this is how much you pay. If we jump to 75,000 words, this is how much you pay. It's a 50% increase, which 50% more words. But if we get down here to 200,000 words, look how much you're paying for a developmental and for a line edit. And usually if you are self-publishing and you don't have a robust group of writers around you, there are definitely people, and I have clients who are paying for a developmental and then they come back 6 months later and they have a line edit. So that's, if we're talking about, usually people who are self-publishing are keeping books shorter. Generally speaking, that's not a hard and fast rule. But if we're talking about like we're investing $3,000 in editing on average, that's different than $12,000 in editing. Are you married to all of those words still? Do those still feel important enough? Audiobooks are becoming increasingly popular and increasingly important and a very, very important part of the marketing of your book. So let's look at the fact that Hunger Games, this book is about 100,000 words and it's an 11-hour audiobook. I talked to a friend of mine who is an audiobook narrator and a sound engineer, and I'm going to put up her response here in just a second. We're going to talk about how many hours it actually takes to produce 11 hours of an audiobook. Okay, it can take anywhere from 4 to 10 hours to edit one finalized, finished hour of audio, depending on a few different factors. So she says that podcasts are a little bit faster and easier because a podcast can sound a little bit messier, but an audiobook needs to sound perfectly clean and it has to be word for word exactly what is on the page, including like punctuation. Punctuation changes the way that you breathe and all of these things. And so it has to be perfect, has to match what is on the page exactly, or else we have like copyright problems. So that can take up to 10 hours for a finalized hour in the studio of an audio. So at 100,000 words, that is an 11-hour audiobook. So this is looking at over 100 hours in the studio that you are having to pay a sound engineer and a voice actor and a narrator in order to get that finalized audiobook. 115,000 words, we just jumped up to 13 hours on the audiobook, and we added 30 hours of studio time for a sound engineer and for a narrator, for a voice actor, someone to do this actual narration, this voiceover. 130,000 word book, we added 3 more hours. So we added another 3 hours on the audiobook, which added another 30 hours of production time. And again, you are talking about, these are professionals. These are not people who are being paid minimum wage, or they shouldn't be being paid minimum wage, but these are professional narrators or professional voiceover actors or professional performers and professional sound engineers, and you are renting studio space and you are paying for that time to be there. This is not running you $10 or $15 an hour. This is running you hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour, and you are talking about hundreds of hours of production in order to get that audiobook out there. Now, if you as a self-publisher do not want to do all of those things and you want to put your book out for very, very cheaply, that is absolutely up to you. You can totally and completely do that. But in traditional publishing, the expectation is that the product is going to be well published and the product is going to have an audiobook that is also well polished to go along with it. These costs add up significantly. You are saying like, well, but a book is 100,000 words, 125,000 words isn't that much more. It is 25% more on all of the costs across all avenues. It is much more expensive to produce a book that has more words in it. And so, yeah, you as an untested, unproven, financially risky debut author, you are going to have to prove that you are worth the investment before somebody is willing to spend that on you. Now, you might have a totally and completely fantastic, amazing, wonderful book that everybody is sure is going to sell like crazy, and they might be willing to invest in you. They might be willing to take on your debut at 275,000 words. It's rare. Statistically, it's rare. So you can either roll the dice and say, I'm going to be the one in a million, or you can debut with something that's going to have a slightly lower word count than what you are excited about and save the big behemoth book for book 2, book 3, book 4 when you are a little bit more proven and they're willing to pay you a little bit more to spend all that time writing it.